Hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and I have been busy getting together my New Year's resolutions. A list of resolutions which does not include playing Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't fallen down like that crazy conspiracy hole or anything like that. My decision to not buy Sword and Shield begins and ends with the fact that I cannot enjoy a lot of it with so many of my favorite Pokemon. Although, instead of playing Sword and Shield and instead of making stupid videos yelling at Sword and Shield, I've been spending my time a bit more productively. I've rekindled my love affair with Dragon Quest VIII, turns out it was made by the Yokai Watch folks. Who'da thunk it? I even took my own advice from the Dragamons video and replayed Fossil Fighters Champions. Did you know that this game has a New Game Plus mode in it? A monster collecting game with a New Game Plus mode. But anyway, I still think this whole Sword and Shield situation is gonna smolder. Smolder like the Star Wars Special Edition. Which is actually kind of an ironic thing to say because I actually sort of like the Star Wars Special Edition. I better move on before I lose all of my credibility with my audience. Today we're going to be doing something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I guess I can count this as one of my New Year's resolutions as well, because today we're going to be talking about the Pokemon movies. Coming out pretty much every year, the Pokemon movies have been a huge part of the brand pretty much from the beginning, although their quality tends to vary kind of wildly thanks to their annual releases, but a lot of them I think are still worth watching and all of them are worth talking about. Although for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be excluding the live-action Detective Pikachu movie and the remake of Mewtwo Strikes Back, mainly because I haven't seen them, so those might be a video for a future time. So let's get started. However, I do have a New Year's party I need to leave for pretty soon, so we're gonna have to do all of these in a hurry, in, say, a minute or less? A movie famous for a single, memorable, memeorable line.
And we succeeded.
I actually saw this movie first on a Japanese VHS my dad brought home from overseas, and it's after I saw the English version that I learned that 4Kids Entertainment actually altered the stuff that they imported for American audiences. Yeah, everybody knows this today, but back when I first saw this movie, it came as a shock. Although that Japanese VHS did make me the hit at parties for a while, as my friends and I all laughed at the Japanese version's "Oh my god." Oh my god! The movie itself, sadly, is kind of underwhelming, with a plot that resolves itself without any help from Ash and friends. Pure Deus Ex Machina at its worst. Now this one's good. It's good for one reason. Ash gets to be the main character. He's the main character because the Deus Ex Machina simply isn't enough on its own. On the other hand, it does introduce a common plot hole in these movies. Our villain, who doesn't seem to have a name, has this big flying contraption, and when I see stuff like this, I can't help but think, if you can afford all of this crazy stuff you want to use to catch a Pokemon, why don't you just buy a Master Ball? But later, when he pulls out his Ancient Mew card, I got it. I've seen how the discovery of a rare item can turn into a dangerous obsession. Top notch, better than I remember it. Ash as the focus of a movie story is a rare sight, as we're soon going to see. I hate this movie. I hated it when it first came out, but then a bunch of videos defending it came out and I tried watching it again to see if maybe I'd missed something when I was a kid. Nope. Even when people explain to me the reasons they say this movie is good, to me it is still very much the film that killed Pokemon enthusiasm in the United States. Just as poorly made a Magnetic Rose wannabe as it ever was. I mean, they busted in Ash's mom solely so he could watch her getting kidnapped. And as for Molly, the kid can magic up a house and a daddy and brand new Pokemon out of nowhere, but she has to kidnap a mommy? Confusing rules enough as it is, but if they wanted to have a distressing character arc for Ash, why not have Molly kidnap Pikachu out of jealousy and really get into the Lovecraftian ideas the movie promises? And Charizard coming in at the last minute, people like Charizard, but to me, he just reeks of franchise desperation.
Do you think we're gonna get a bigger part in the next movie?
Be careful what you wish for. The first film that uses what I call the Pokemon movie formula, where they pair a cute legendary Pokemon with a cool legendary Pokemon, and it's just as clumsy as a first attempt typically is. I mean, it's got some cool fight scenes and a threatening villain who has special Master Balls that have a nasty side effect, and the sight of things like Sam's old-timey Pokeball is neato, but the movie itself has no direction, and Celebi and Suicune are a bad matchup. Why is Suicune even here? To promote Pokemon Crystal? Solid pass. Don't worry, they get better at this sort of story later. Like here, I love this movie. For one thing, it opens with something other than Ash winning a Pokemon battle. There is a lot of gorgeous artwork, and the villains are great. They've got this sort of spy gadget angle where they're so good at blending into society that even if they assault somebody in public, they don't draw any real suspicion. The battles are great with a more realistic flow, and perhaps the movie uses a little too much computer graphics. I love the new characters though. I particularly wish we learned more about Bianca, because it's like she grew up with a secret unicorn in her backyard, and I want to learn more about their relationship. Good movie for the artwork, when it actually uses artwork. Okay, animators, we get it. You really liked Princess Mononoke, alright? Another movie trying to be Cutemon with Coolmon. Which Coolmon? The movie doesn't seem to know. It does have an interesting narrative device to show the passage of time, and the ending credits are truly great. Yeah, kinda mean to say that the best part of a movie is the credits, but the song they play here is so good, they even put in the original Japanese version in the English dub. Otherwise, the plot kinda stinks. You're telling me this guy is a master illusionist and manipulator, but he can't trick a small child into making the sort of wish he wants instead? And then, of course, Pokemon Groudonoko happens and eats up the rest of the movie, and let's just move on. Hey, what if E.T., but E.T. was the thing from another world and Elliot was Bakura from Yu-Gi-Oh! This movie is a phenomenal laugh watch. Nothing about this movie makes sense or triggers any dread, so all you can do is laugh. I genuinely think this is supposed to be a comedy movie, because the funny stuff is actually pretty funny and the scary stuff is also really funny. This is the Rocky Horror Picture Show of Pokemon movies, best watched on a Rift-tastic livestream with a bunch of others or when you're still doped up from having your wisdom teeth removed. Can attest to both scenarios. This movie is disappointing. Don't get me wrong, it has probably the best setup of any Pokemon movie with the sight of the two armies in the distant past, but then it does nothing with it. Instead, we spend the whole movie watching Lucario learn something everybody else, including the audience, already knows. Rather than giving a payoff to the setup with maybe people descended from these two armies stirring up new conflict, instead the plot is somebody steps on a tree and it starts to die. Squandered opportunities are worse than a lousy plot, and this movie fits that to a T. Yes! Second favorite movie. I slagged off the Entei film, and now I have to play defense on this one, which a lot of people hate. I, however, love this movie. It's a do-over of the Jirachi film, and this time they absolutely nailed it, ditching the horror themes Pokemon movies love to use but hate to go all the way with, and replacing it with fun, campy action. Everything in this movie also makes sense. Why is this water floating like this? Oh, these Pokemon's eyes are lighting up and they're moving their hands, so they're using magic or something. Jackie's a great character too, calm in the face of danger and compassionate towards Pokemon. I was sold on Jackie as a character when we see how he behaves after his mind gets swapped with Ash's due to Manaphy's heart swap. Not to mention, May gets a much better arc in this movie than Max did in the Jirachi movie. And lest we forget Ultra Instinct Ash Ketchum. This movie is by far the longest, but I wouldn't cut a second of it. What I would cut is this guy's voice acting.
You can release Manaphy now.
Way to make a paycheck, buddy. Also, it's the first Pokemon movie to not have a psychic type as one of its main stars. The Entei movie is Pokemon Silent Hill? Pfft, no, this movie is Pokemon Silent Hill. It actually has a mystery, for one thing. Certainly an improvement from others, as it actually does a good job with its story and with the horror elements that it utilizes. Its obvious plot twist, which even a 3-year-old can see coming, leaves a hole in the plot's mystery, which we then have to solve while the others chase the red herring. Makes for a good plot, but I can't help but feel that Ash and friends really have no reason to be here. Not bad though. Hope you enjoyed this one, because it's all downhill from here for the Diamond and Pearl movies. Hey, I got a funny idea for a movie. What if the Gratitude Pokemon was instead an ungrateful prick? What? That sounds awful? Screw it, we're making it anyway. A direct sequel to the Darkrai movie, this one is kind of a mess. Giratina invades Dialga's personal space and then gets mad at Shaman, and Regigigas is here for some reason, and the moral of the movie is that you shouldn't be an ungrateful prick. Huh, who could have seen that one coming? And it just kinda happens without any real catharsis. Also another case of why don't you just buy a Master Ball? Ah well, the scenes in the reverse world are kinda neat and well animated at least. Oh my, now we're getting bad. So in comes Mary Sue and she can control all the god Pokemons with her special awesome powers and there's time travel for some reason. Yeah, this movie lost me. I mean, these huge godlike Pokemon are supposed to be beyond human control and understanding, and yet someone can now control them and Regigigas is here for some reason? Yeah, no, not a great conclusion to the trilogy. This movie gets it backwards. It has a lame setup but a fantastic ending? What happened? Aside from a serious case of why don't you just buy it? The movie opens with a Pokemon Blitzball game that never comes up again, which kinda makes me wonder why it's here. Especially since this whole segment was cut from the version that aired on American TV. Zoro is cute, and the idea of going up against a guy who can literally see the future is fun, and like I said, the ending is legendary, but the road to getting there is a little rough. Still, not a bad send-off for Generation 4. What? My most hated generation has one of my most loved movies? Released as a gimmicky double feature with 2 different versions depending on Star Legendary, this film holds surprising water. It does a good job of making us care for the cute part of this film, way better than the Celebi movie ever does, and it finishes with a pair of legendary dragons and a rocket-powered robotic Spartan doing battle around a flying sword the size of a building. It's metal as all heck!
The Dragon Force is out of control!
The Dragon Force is out of control! This is a lousy film. What starts off as what looks like a journey of redemption and self-discovery quickly devolves into another boring chase scene where nothing interesting happens and nobody learns anything. I mean, they literally use the imagery of a Japanese tradition about making promises and they do absolutely nothing with it. This movie is a chore to watch with all the grace and speed of a... yeah, that works. And as the perfect turd nugget on top of this crap cake, Victini. Definite skip. I actually really like the setup for this movie. It's Mewtwo without the superiority complex, trying and failing to find kinship with a fellow group of Pokéclones, but the movie was definitely missing the fulcrum that gives Mewtwo the needed catharsis that causes her to change her mind about humans. It needed a better support character or something to help put Mewtwo's views into perspective, and 5 seconds with Ash certainly doesn't cut it. Another in the promising startup lousy conclusion pile. They made a pretty good prequel segment for this movie though. Okay, we get it. You really liked Princess Mononoke. I have a love-hate relationship with this movie. On one hand, another for the good intro, bad ending pile, along with the longest loading of a Chekhov's gun I've ever seen. On the other, the XY anime had a strong group dynamic which works well with the cute Diancie and the best depiction of Jewish guilt I've ever seen in a kid's movie. I mean, our civilization is dying and you were the only one who could have saved it, but don't feel bad about it or anything. Cute, good, just excise anything involving Eviltal during your time watching and you're good.
Hey guys, wanna see my Pokemon collection?
The only movie worse than the Keldeo movie. Another prolonged chase movie where nobody changes or learns anything, but featuring an even more miserable Cutemon. Also a bunch of legendary dragon megas because they had a card game to sell. Just a hodgepodge of no thank you. This movie is adorable. They seem to have gotten that Ash and Co. just feel roped in on these movies by literally roping them into this one, though the antics between Magearna and Volcanion sort of carry themselves. And in all of it, a decent analogy on how the selfish actions of humans are actually bad for everybody, and having a decent excuse to showcase a bunch of megas by giving them to an overpowered villain certainly works a lot better than in the Hoopa film where they just sorta show up. Good movie. I mean, shouldn't I be happy for this movie? My favorite box legendary finally gets a role in a film and it's a painfully bad retread of the original series. All I could think of while watching it was how the original anime handled every story beat better than this. Parting ways with Butterfree works better when we spent a lot of time with the character, not the 20-odd minutes we get here. And is Marshadow supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy? Movie seems to neither know nor care. The best Pokemon movie in over 10 years. A festival is taking place and it's full of people who are all dealing with personal struggles when in walks this ray of sunshine named Ash Ketchum to help give them a push. This movie is amazing. All of the characters really shine through, from the lady who seemingly hates Pokemon to the shy, Pokemon-loving scientist who has to muster all of his strength to finally speak frankly, and the way their stories all tangle together is clever and believable. Being technically out of continuity helps this movie a lot, though it does make me hunger for more Pokemon films that don't feature Ash Ketchum. And so that's my video for the end of the year, although a new year will no doubt bring a new Pokemon movie, so I might have something new to talk about, although I might even talk more about some of the stuff I've covered here, but anyways, until next time, have a happy new year, and this is Kodak signing off.